was very outgoing.
Polly.
And Polly, and fun-loving, and really brought a lot of joy. Yeah, all of them had they were different. She wasn't moody, and she just made your life seem so much brighter. Well, our grandchildren are the same way. And like Casey was very extroverted and loving. You were extroverted and interacted. I mean, you were like a little adult long before your time. And so we had so much fun. And you tend to respond to that, see? It's just natural. You don't want to do it, but it's so natural because here you are. If you're sitting here and here would come the grandchildren all to visit you. One or two of them run up and give you a hug. The rest of them don't do that. They love you and they're glad to see you, but it's just that they're not brought up that way or something. Anyway, so. Polly was like that, and Jenny is like that. Jenny is so lovable, She loves to get up and watch you little sit on your lap and respond to you.
She's so much like my mother.
Yes, she is. That's exactly right. So, just stop doing that.
No way. I told you. All right.
Well, your mother has a lot more stories than I do.
I know, and I'll get those on videotape someday too. Soon, probably, since we're moving pretty soon. She's got stories galore.
Yeah.
All right.
When Lee got better and Tom, he miraculously swallowed something. I think it was strawberry juice.
Yeah, something, yeah.
They were measuring it by putting it in his mouth and then measuring what came out.
Mm-hmm.
And he was brought home fairly soon after he was able
Well,
to
they didn't
swallow.
have,
Didn't have
any place.
So my dad had promised, I don't know whether he promised God or he promised Tom, that he'd get a television set for him because he was going to have.
Well, he had a lot of guilt feelings.
We had one of the first TVs in the neighborhood because of that. Of course, I did a mountain but just black and white, 3 or 4 stations. But anyway, that was a tough summer.
So we were raised in a patriarch family, and our vacations, 2 weeks in August, or 10 days in August, that we would go, and my mother, God bless her, it really wasn't much of a vacation for her.
She had to work.
Because we were at the county farm, and we all worked and played. It was a great place to grow up, and our family was very strong, and the men particularly. It was a man's world.
It was a man's world, that's right.
And sometimes I can remember the very first time you can look at it as an initiation. I remember the first time I got to go with the men to go take a leak in the
That night,
in the garden or in the yard.
I should.
You take a leak.
Did you ever meet our mother?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was younger.
My mother and dad never met. The 2 brothers came home from Indiana in the summertime, and they went to college. They didn't come home on Christmas they just came home in the summer because it was expensive to ride a
We'll go to the
train.
restaurant and he'll get stuff
Nobody had a
sandwiched.
car.
Right.
The next day.
When they came home for the summer, my mother happened to be
He's
in
not
Auburn
too
working.
much.
Her folks had moved there.
I gotta go through.
That's fine.
Because her dad had been he was what was called an efficiency expert. He moved from a plant to try to figure out how to get more work done with, anyway, that's what he did. And he moved around a lot, they moved around a lot. My mother was there and she took a job as a stenographer. And her friend had dated my uncle, my dad's identical twin brother.
Edward.
Edward. And they get home, and I don't know just exactly when they got home, but I know that college didn't let out like it does now, early May, it let out in June. It was true when we went to school. We never got home till the 5th or 6th of June. And I would guess they didn't get home till about the 10th. And they had a blind date. And they were married on the 28th of June.
That fast.
That's
Yeah,
how
they
that
fell in love.
I mean, it was a thunderbolt. And they got married and never told their parents, either set of parents, until they got ready to go back to school.
Hmm.
And then dropped a bomb on them. And they were scared to death of my mother's parents would be upset. They were not anywhere near as upset as my dad's parents, because they didn't, I don't know that they didn't like my mother, but they didn't think anybody was good enough for either of those two twin boys or with any other kids.
But any kids.
But, I mean, this was out of the blue, you know, I mean, I can't imagine how they felt at the end of August to find out that their son had been married since June.
Yeah.
And they, down to Bloomington they went, and they lived in an apartment with
Or grandpa.
a pull-out bed and
Any
a
money
hot
that
plate.
he gave, the school was gone.
Well, Dad told me he borrowed $1,000
Did he?
to go to school. And
That was a lot of money.
that was, yeah, and he owed $1,000 when he got done, is what I mean to say. How they came up with the money to put those boys in school, because Grandpa was a 6th grade education.
But to give you some background, that's when Letty and I wanted to get married. My senior year, Millie was in Crawfordsville, but I was going to be, he was in law school,
First year of law school, yeah.
and I wanted to get married. And it broke my dad's heart, because what he saw is that what happens is you get married and then you have a child, and there goes the medical school plans out the window. And I never,
He never deviated from wanting to go to med school.
there was never.
But he promised his dad and mother that he wouldn't have any kids.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, Jody came along.
Yeah, so much for that, huh?
well, you
Well, he
know,
was a senior. Well, she wasn't born until a year
it was
later.
Immaculate Conception.
He,
You've heard of that?
Well, right.
He
No,
was-
I know. I always figured Jody was the second coming.
he was born, she was born a year and a half after. They
Yeah.
were married in September. And she
Oh,
was-
there wasn't any living together at that time.
No.
You know, that was, but actually there was no, see, you had to be 21 to be married in Indiana at that time.
Had to get consent,
As
or
a,
get consent of
as
your
a
parents.
boy, as a man, as a female, 18 was the age. So Letty didn't have to get permission. I had to get permission from my parents to get married. And my mother wasn't going to sign. My father, of course, had his history of falling in love and getting married, you know, on the sly. And so he didn't argue. He was disappointed and heartbroken, because he thought that meant medical school was going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, you know, I threatened my mother that I would turn 21 in December, and I would get married 8th, and I would get married December 9th, and I wouldn't invite my mother to the wedding. Well, my father finally won that argument and we got married. So both of them had to sign for me. So, you know, things work out somehow. God only knows. But that period of time with polio was a real hard time for my folks.